I'm going to add it. Let me just open up the Facebook.
Used to not be able to go live on Facebook from Safari, but I'm glad we can now.
Oh, I think I'm on Chrome.
Oh, that's cool. Hey, we are live. I
Yeah,
see us on
live.
Facebook.
Perfect.
We've
I'm
got
just
a lot to
gonna.
say for this one.
We do. We do. I'm
So,
excited for this conversation, actually. But maybe you want to preface it while I'm just sharing
yes,
to my. Yeah.
let me preface it. Well, hopefully somebody catches us live because we didn't really do it. I didn't really announce it.
We didn't do an announcement. That's fine. I mean,
I'm
the
the worst
replays.
at announcements.
The
Um,
replay's always there, you know.
We've got 2 people online. So if you're here, say hi. We can't really see you unless you drop a hi. Let us know where you're calling in from or tuning in from. So let me introduce today's topic. And it's called Pieces.
Yeah.
How women change the course of relationships beyond polarity, dominance, and submission.
Oh, the hot topics.
The hot,
Feminine, masculine, all the things.
all the things it is
All the things.
right now. Hey, Delita.
There she is.
We had one drop. I wonder if
You
it
know
was
what? That's
what I
fine.
was saying.
I'm good with a few people in the room. They'll come back eventually.
Hey, yeah, totally.
Doesn't matter.
So
So yeah, maybe if you want to just like
yeah,
start. Yeah.
I want to actually like put out the questions that I had here, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
So the questions I put out in the announcement is, and I'm also gonna like put the questions in the description once this live is over, so that
Yeah.
people can actually respond if they want to.
Yeah.
And we can go ask questions, ask specific stuff, and then eventually we can actually just even respond to that. So these are the questions. What would happen if women really stood out in their power? What is that even? What kind of experience of love would that create? What are we getting instead right now? You know, from what we hear people are saying.
Yeah.
Would we be able to overcome feeling exploited? Because that's a lot of what's going on.
Yeah.
In the dynamic, if the dynamic isn't utility or exchange, what are relationships really for? How do we get out of that pool? Do we have the staying power to do what it takes in changing the landscape for a more meaningful relationship or relationships?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We had a discussion on the weekend that kind of segued into this conversation, and it's actually something that's been very prominent in my experience right now. Like a lot of people that I'm speaking to, both men and women actually, are really seeking a deeper level of connection and love, regardless of where they're at. And I think that oftentimes every person that comes into your world is in their own world and has their own varying degree of things that make them suitable and appropriate for what you want in a relationship. But I think more often than not, we get caught up in um, the traditional ideas about relationship and how those roles of relationship play out. And when we think about power and what it means to stand in your power, it's almost as though in the role playing. So role playing means I'm supposed to have a marriage and children and the white picket fence and the house by the time I'm 35, or I'm completely obsolete as a woman and barren and nobody's going to want me. And then, you know, you have the hyper alpha masculine who are not alpha masculine at all, really preaching that like women have to be these anointed Marys of the world, that, you know, if you're not that, then you're nobody. Or if you get too old, like there's all these roles we play out based on the way we define love internally, and then ultimately how that gets pushed out into our experience externally. And so what's interesting is that men want to see more real women. And so it's like, what does real actually constitute? And it is a much deeper experience than people really realize. So if we just look at the physical components, a lot of times it's the filters, it's the beauty we put on our face. It's like everything that we do to make ourselves appropriate for a man or a partner.
Right.
It's
Right.
how we subtly or sometimes overtly abandon ourselves and our needs at the
Yeah.
beginning of a relationship. So we put up this entire beautiful human, and then 3, 6, 9, 12 months later, we can't hold that frame anymore because it's not real. And so a lot of people, I think, are stuck between knowing the core of the person, because I think a lot of people do feel that beyond what's here and what's been presented, there are people that can sense the love behind that, and we stick around for it.
Yeah.
We stick around for that to show up when it really does require the individual to be able to be in that.
Right. And that I think is what people are having a hard time doing for themselves, even because if you've grown up as a people pleaser, you are constantly modulating yourself in order to gain approval, or love. And so you're like a chameleon.
Yeah,
Do you even know yourself without these things? This year, not because I don't love it, or because I I don't know. I took my false long eyelashes off, and I haven't worn them for months and months and months. Because I got to the stage where I was like, oh my God, I don't have eyelashes on right now. I'm feeling so naked.
yeah, yep,
you know? And I think, that even got to the point of me with my nails. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. My nails aren't painted. They're
yeah,
these extreme beauty standards that we try to measure up to based on a false reality that's, constantly marketed to us. And I used to love those things without it affecting my sense of self. And so
right,
I took it off for a year, for a little while, or I don't know how many months it's been, but it's probably been since March,
yeah,
early March this year.
yeah,
And I've enjoyed it, and I love them now. I love them. If I wear them, I'm going to wear them, but I'm not at the expense of, oh, I can take them off and I can, still feel feminine
yeah,
and beautiful. But anyway,
yeah.
something else. Power.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
women in their power, like what is that? And
Yeah.
this is one that it took me some time in my world to actually understand, at least for me, what that meant.
Mm,
Because growing up, I had a very strong sense of self. And it was almost so much so that it was very off-putting to my external reality. But as I've grown in my experience, I actually know that black sheep or outskirted um, receipt was not about me. It was about the people that were in my like explicit reality. So it's like my parents, some of my friends, like there are people that are there always giving you feedback, but that feedback doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you at all.
absolutely.
So I think that the one thing I love to debunk is that feminine or woman or power doesn't constitute or fit into one box.
It doesn't.
And there's always people, places, and things that will love you as you are in your current expression, whether or not you're traumatized to death or not.
Yeah.
It's really that self-ownership without the force of power. So I
Mm,
think with women,
mm-hmm.
we've obviously seen a major shift. We've gone from being the stay-at-home moms, and this is only in the last 100 years. Like, let's be real. If we went back thousands of years, there were parts and in time where women were actually revered, where
And
they
then
were the
the turn went down to you can't even have your own like property, you can't own a job, if you
exactly,
have a father who gives you over to another man, you
yeah,
know. In
yeah,
some cultures, you were exchanged for
yeah,
marriage.
exactly. And I think we've grown up, and I'm going to relate this to relationships specifically, because I think that for women, and I've had this conversation with men actually, they don't understand where that desperation comes from when a woman really finds a man that they really like. And I think from a conditional standpoint, it's like we've been spoon fed this Cinderella story where it's
Mm.
like a Prince Charming is going to come save you. You'll know when that happens. There's going to be some turmoil. It's all going to work out in the end. And you basically have to do everything to get that man, you know, because if you know he's the one, you go for him. And what happens is there's a sacrifice of everything else that that woman is to
Mm.
achieve a man. That for me is so mind-blowing in the last year. It's like I think of the ways that women work to achieve a man. They work on their psychology, they work on their body, they work on how they present, they work on how they speak, they work on being feminine, they work on, you know, having their life together. And it's like, when do we stop and just say, wait a second, I'm inherently loved. Not everybody is, but I am. And why am I working so hard
Yeah.
to get a man
Yeah. No, I
or
wrote a
to
post.
have him see me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just wrote a post this last week about, it was towards personal development and, whatever. I'm like, if you're doing it for a motive to get something, you're doing it for the wrong reasons
yeah,
already. And that
yeah,
just goes to show how deeply we're programmed in having to do something in order to
right.
get,
Yeah,
be, do,
yeah,
have.
yeah.
So yeah, it makes
So,
no sense to me anymore. I mean, I used to think like that quite a lot when I was younger. I mean, I was heavily steeped in monotheistic, patriarchal um, relationship dynamics, and I even married into the church that way.
yeah,
So
yeah,
religious marriage
yeah,
was, and then I get in there and I'm like, oh, finally, everything that I've been promised and have been working towards is going to be mine now. And then reality hits you in the face. You
you're
get
like,
married,
wait
you
a
don't know this
second.
person.
Yeah, you're like,
And
this is nothing like they told me it was going to be. Yeah,
yeah, nothing I was going to tell me to be. And also, like when I hit that milestone for becoming a mother, same thing.
yeah,
Same thing. In fact, that one induced such a deep identity questioning, was like insane.
yeah,
But it was really good. It was painful at the time, but it was really good at the end of the day because it just led me back to my core self again. Because me too, like when I was younger, I was very strong-minded and determined, and I had to be because
yeah.
yeah, my parents' marriage failed. Well, my dad ended up in jail, but
Oh no.
my mom, I just watched my mom go through these relationships. She cycled through all these relationships that were not good for her or inclusive of us, from the men that she chose. And I have had the same experience. So I
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit more about that. What kind of experience, what have we been getting, and what kind of experience is possible if we choose to deliberately, not for reasons of getting man, but for reasons of personal growth and feeling one sense of self. So first question is, and I know you have a lot to say about this,
Yeah. Yeah.
your own
Recent.
experience.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
What are we getting? What have we been getting instead? What have women been settling for? And what's
Okay.
your experience in that versus what could it actually be if women step in to this power we're talking about, like self-source power?
All right. So self-source power is nothing but, as a woman, every day I'm discovering who I am. I know who I am, and I'm okay with where I'm going. I'm able to communicate that to people. I'm able to move towards tension in my relationship. So in places where I might have ran or avoided or not communicated,
Yeah.
I'm moving towards the things that I want, and I'm observing the reality to see if what is being presented to me is actually it. I'm able to have, and we'll talk about this later, but staying power in the sense that as a human being, I can love anyone. However, who I choose to have in my vicinity is completely outside of that. And I also hold no stigma for the future should you leave and come back. However, if you want certain things in your relationships, you have to consciously choose that. So a
Mhm.
powerful person, not just a woman, is someone who can be in that and the full range too. So as people, so I'm not talking about the person who lives on a God frequency and thinks they're like everything and then some. I'm talking about people who are in touch with their humanity as well,
Yeah, you have
which
to be.
does mean that sometimes there are things that are going to come up that you've experienced before. It's
Right.
the response, it's the choice, like what are you moving towards? Sometimes you are going to have emotions. Sometimes you might feel needy. Sometimes you might feel wanty. Sometimes you
Yeah.
might be a giant bitch. You don't know, but the full spectrum of a human being is not restricted to the perfection that we place
Yeah.
in front of others. So power is being able to own all of it, because when you own all of it, then your ability to leave your field wide open for actualized potential, not just the potential,
Mm-hmm.
is vast, because you're not concerned with, will it come, will it be there, will he stay, will he choose me, blah blah blah. and
That's
and you can move that into any gender, but it's like you're not going to be concerned with that, because
yeah.
you
Doesn't
know
take up
that
space here.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you can then create in your experience, which is fantastic.
Right.
um
It's
so
excruciating.
it is excruciating. So what I've witnessed, because of some of the societal conditioning, and then of course the conditioning that people individually carry, what I've kind of noticed is what people are receiving in terms of love is not really love at all.
No.
It's a very tumultuous, conditional, um, expectant,
Codependent. Yeah.
codependent, and for lack of better words, it's like you have these really beautiful moments followed by complete and utter hell, because you can't fit that person into your tiny little box. And every time they don't show up in the way you might expect, you're judging them,
Or
and
punish
you're
them.
resenting them because you're
Yeah.
investing something that you're not getting back from them. And so it's a very transactional exchange between people. And
Not to
those,
mention not a real relationship if you are insisting on imposing a fantasy or an ideal onto somebody that they cannot live up to in the first place.
exactly. And so the one thing that's important to note is it's okay to have those desires, but you also have to be in reality with the people that are in front of you. So if there's certain things you want out of a relationship, great. But if the person you keep choosing over and over again demonstrates 1 out of 20 of those qualities, you
Yeah.
probably not in a, you're not
Yeah.
aware.
There's also something to say right here because that there's a nuance right there on that particular point. A lot of people don't even know that the fantasies that they're building as their ideal relationship
Are
isn't even
based on,
grounded in reality at all. You know,
yes,
a lot of the time it's like grounded in denial and inability to actually hold attention, like you were mentioning earlier, avoiding conflict. So they project this idealized person who will never like rock their boat or be themselves and accidentally,
yeah,
triggering them. So yeah, like you said earlier, they need to be able to hold the whole range and have a realistic ideal of what is it that I'm requiring? Why do I want that? Is it actually coming from a place of true desire?
yes,
Where I'm actually willing to invest staying power in somebody and know that they're human as well
yeah,
as myself with
yeah,
grace.
yeah.
I think that's, I just needed to clarify that for people because sometimes when I say that or when I have done coaching, even in group settings, people will take that and run with it and go wild. They'll just like, they'll just like fall back onto old stuff. That's given them more permission to go,
Well,
go
no, so
mad.
the thing, and so where I'm kind of in a little bit of, it's not even disagreement, but I have a different perspective, is that all of the things I always wanted in my relationships, I felt I had to create. So in the world today with the law of attraction, all the manifestation techniques, a lot of these things are being used to obtain something. And that's a
Mm.
really, it's a kind of a gross experience, because your focus is completely on another person and not on how you're actually. So people would much rather communicate with a person in their head than
Yeah, that's what
in
I'm saying.
person, or they'll communicate about that person to another person, but they won't talk to the person. And that in and of itself, that one action right there severs or separates the connection.
Absolutely.
But
I love
it's so
that.
nuanced. And so where I see I do believe you can have everything you want in a relationship.
Yeah, I do too.
And
Like,
what I've realized is from a place of power, it happens organically. You don't
yeah,
have to force it. You don't have to think about it. It's literally
yeah.
selection.
Because you're
Um,
being that, you're being that kind of person. The
exactly.
other side note I want to add to that though is, like, you may imagine something, right? Or have this ideal thing that you want. And sometimes it's going to come out in a variation. I mean, like, a lot of people hold really hard and fast to it should look
Just like this.
exactly
Yes. Yes.
just like this.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, you
It can be
it's
so much more. You're like
so much
restricting
more. So
your, yeah,
yeah, open yourself to it being so much more if you're present with it, instead of like, oh, playing this comparison in your fantasy. Who knows? Yeah. So
so
anyway.
what I've noticed in what women are getting is there's a real big culture on quick dating. So it's like constant
Mhm.
swiping. You have options every day. So what people are experiencing is a lack of commitment to really investing any intimacy or time with a person. Um, no real depth or intimacy, because if something doesn't, like, if you don't get like a high or a sugar fix from somebody, it's like, oh, well, I can just have another one. It's like a
Yeah.
smorgasbord of dating.
Wow,
Um,
it's
and
crazy.
Yep. And so women are, the biggest complaints are ghosting, men entertaining multiple women. They can't stay focused on just me. I'm too much. I'm not enough. Like,
All the
women
things.
tend to, yeah, all the things. For men, at least the ones that want relationship, um, they get in relationships with women who have no understanding of who they are. And so with that, as we all know, growing up, there's a range of chaos that we bring because we don't know who we are and we're trying to settle
Mhm.
ourselves in the world. But men are not necessarily equipped to understand how to hone in the woman and not play with the girl. And so
Yeah.
then they fall in love with these people that have no idea how to love. And then there's this perpetual hurt. And then they shut down entirely. And then it becomes a
Yeah.
transactional experience. So,
Yeah.
what kind of experience of love would we create when we're in our power? And in power, just like as I said before, means the totality of you and owning it. It doesn't
Totally.
mean you appear a certain way. So you're like, I'm not a goddess that's standing here stoic. I'm not worshipped. Like, I don't, you don't need to make self-proclamating statements because a person in their power is existing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, if we really strip away, so a lot of people like to go right into the energy because that's part of it, but you lose your sense of reality when you haven't learned how you create in your reality. And
Mm.
like, truly, in love, what I've noticed more often than not for women specifically, because pieces is going to be for women, is that we find a man and they've exhibited qualities that we've never experienced before. And more often than not, it's sexual. So women, I believe, in a lot of areas have felt a deprivation of true connection and sexual expression, that when something out of the norm happens, immediately there's a fixation on that must be really special. And
That's
it
interesting.
is. So in a temporary moment, it is kind of special because you're like, oh, I haven't experienced that before. But then what happens is there's an attachment that ensues.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
now we're twin flames, we're soulmates, we're this, we're that. And then there's this long rabbit hole of when you start to sacrifice yourself to try
Mhm.
and get this man. So you're working on yourself so he sees you, so he comes back into your realm, blah, 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 blah. And people are so thirsty for actual connection, which doesn't actually happen out there first.
Mm-mm.
When it's satiated in here, truly, it comes from everything. So
Yeah.
when and if you just flip the switch, so right now it's like a lack oriented experience that I've witnessed in the world. Like, you go on TikTok, you watch some of the relationship things, it's like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, nobody's happy. And I said, what if people had different experiences? They would have different things to talk about. And there are people in this world that are capable of being in mature relationships where you're actually like communicating, playing, having fun. Like, it's not this serious endeavor.
Mm.
Um, But what I've noticed in my experience specifically is when I started to fine tune my experience in relationships, it really meant that I had to look at what I was experiencing as normal. So my normal for me was avoidant people who
Mm,
would often not be kind to me when they were upset. They had no idea how to handle conflict. When it came to men, um, it was really easy in the beginning. I had them, and then the minute I started liking them, they would run for the hills. And so there's all this stuff about self-concept in the world right now where it's like, if you just change that, everything will be fine. And what I realized is the aversion of reality was that all of those people and how I was feeling and being treated was because I was choosing those relationships.
so
And it was a baseline of my love experience because
yeah,
that is what I knew as normal. So when something extraordinary happens, like if you have an incredible connection with somebody or a great sexual experience with somebody, that can just exist on its own, or it can move into something else, but you're not in control of that. What you're in control of is your response to every given second. Are you
yeah.
really present enough with your experience? So as I started to look at my relationships and how flippant they were in some ways, so it's not that there wasn't consistency in my world, but if something would go wrong, it would be like the person would just disappear. And
Yes,
so what we do is we take that personally.
we do.
We
Yeah,
take it personally, and then the anxiety, the thoughts, the whatever. And really, what love requires is that if someone disappears and you want them in your life, you go to them. And as human beings, often we don't, because we think that somebody owes us something. No, if
right.
you want someone in your life, you go to them. You don't chase them, but you make it known.
You
Hey,
make it known and see the
I
response.
want you in my life. I can sense there's something going on here. You have something to say. And then it's that person's
Yeah.
job to either come towards you or not. But when I started to realize that my baseline of normal in relationships was really had really great things, but also some things that were not great, I started to clean that up. And it
Mm,
started with men because I want a partnership. That's
yeah.
something I want. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know when it's coming, but I know that's something I want. And I
Yeah,
started
totally.
to look at the men in my world and I was like, how am I being treated? What am I actually consenting to here? Is this person actually giving me everything that I want? And it's not to say that there can't be moments when there's in and outs with that stuff, but it's like if I can just step into reality for a second instead of wishing, hoping, and praying for this man to deliver to me,
Actually. Hmm.
then I could make an adult decision. So
Yeah.
really, it was like I started to look at those relationships, and I had a hard realization that, and it wasn't just men; it was also women, where I was really accepting qualities that were equal to my experience of love in childhood.
Hmm.
And as I
Yeah.
started to realize that, I started to grieve a little because I was angry that it
Yeah.
took me so long to understand that.
And how long did
Um,
it take
well, I'm 41 years old. I would say I
you?
just really kind of discovered this in the last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we like to think we have it figured out in our 20s, but God, I didn't no idea who I was. But
I,
I think
I
I
too, I didn't
also
have it figured out in my
no,
20s.
exactly. But truthfully speaking, I had to take a look at the
Yeah.
reality first.
Yeah.
And then the power of a person is behind saying, this is actually what I want. Can you do that? And if
No
that
matter what the
person,
stakes are
no
in it.
matter what it is, it's like,
Yeah.
I will put it on the line every single time.
I will put it on the line every single time.
I'll put it on the line every time. But,
Mm.
often we can't even see what we have on the table because we're so in our minds about it that we're not really facing the reality that, oh, wait a minute, I'm literally choosing this. You have a
Mm.
choice to be with a person or not, or to pursue a person or not. Um, and the reality is I was choosing unavailable people because that was normal for me. It was normal for people to be
Mhm.
absent in my experience. That was my experience of love. My experience of love was people will come in and love me for a time and then they'll leave. People will come in and love me, but hate me behind my back. People will come in and love me and know that they love me, but not know how to love me. And then
Yep.
I was like, shit, son, I'm responsible for this. And that's a tough one. That's a tough one for people to grasp onto, is that, you know, there again, there are varying degrees, and there is nowhere in the book that says you are bound to this relationship.
Yeah.
And some decisions are harder than others. So like if there's abuse or substance abuse or deep rooted traumas and pains, it makes it much harder to exit those situations. And I have all the empathy in the world for that, but it is what's required. So if your baseline of normal is absolute fucking shit, then it is actually required of you
It is.
to say, I don't know what lays beyond the shit, but I am no longer willing to play in the shit.
Totally.
And I'm going to get up, and it's going to hurt. And I might cry for a month. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how deep the attachment is. It really just depends on that, generally speaking. But I'm going to move somewhere else, because what else is there? I don't want this anymore.
Yeah. That's interesting, because when I got divorced, I was like, I don't know anything else. I don't even know what's possible.
Right.
And I knew that I could be single for, you know, forever. But and the choice for me was, well, is that a big enough price for me? Is that a big enough fear for me to stay?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you know, I will pay that price if I have to. I choose me. I choose me, and, you know, developing me. I'm not willing to like stay stuck or become an idea of what somebody else wants me to be. And I'm not willing to accept this level of inconsideration, or being told that, you know, you're a burden, or whatever the fuck was
Too
going on.
much, not sexy enough, not this, not that. And
Yeah.
again, you have to think about that. So it's like, there's been some relationships that I've been in where that person just overtly communicated that they were not attracted to me in the
You know
middle of
what?
our and so it what a person who wants what they want. So of course, as a you want a partner that's like, damn, you sexy all the time, sexy with a belly, you sexy with abs, you sexy with brown hair,
Yeah.
like you want that man or woman to look at you and be like, yeah, that's my girl. And if you're struggling in your world, you also want them to be able to challenge you, like, are you okay? Are you okay? Do we, like, it's not about judging your weight or judging it, but
Yeah.
they do it from a place of care. Like,
It's
are
like,
you
what's
okay?
going on for
What's
you?
going on? Because I know for me, I gain weight when I'm going through emotional shit.
Me too.
If my partner could pick up on that and be like, honey, what are we doing here?
What's
And I'll be
going on?
like, yeah, to like bring you back, then
Not say,
amen. Wow, you
not
that the
reduce you
muffin
down to
top is
your
really
body
real. Yeah.
parts.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
totally.
I feel like it really requires you to take a good hard look at where you're at and just kind of look at it and go, is this really it? Is
Yeah.
this where I'm, is this what I'm settling for?
Yeah. And, you know, this one is a particularly hard one for women, because we, you know, and men, I'm sure. I mean, if you're reducing people down, atomizing them to their body parts, and like
Mm,
prioritizing that. And I know that there's this whole argument out, like scientific argument out there about preferences in biological fitness. And yes, to a degree there is, but like, if I had to use that as an excuse for my own personal development in terms of providing for myself, I would be a fucking monster in knowing that there are better ways to provide for myself than undermining myself, or, you know, taking advantage of other people or abusing them or whatever, you know. So you can apply that to any area of your life. It's just that we are like bombarded with like body things. What do you call them? Body ideals.
body dysmorphia, body ideals, yeah.
Yeah. Girls in particular have such a hard time with this, that it consumes their mental, emotional health, and well-being. And I think that, you know, if this is again like attributing our worth and value to utility and really dehumanizing a person into their body parts. I mean, I was sitting with a guy once who, you know, actually a lot of guys do this in the vicinity that I come from. They will see a girl wearing like shorts, and she'll be going past, and their eyes will just follow, and you can sense that they've reduced this whole other being, I don't know who she is, down to her legs.
Yeah,
that is what she is.
but so here's the thing. I don't know that that's wrong.
I don't think it's wrong, but like if you're sitting in the company of another woman you're on a date with.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but this is what I'm talking about, like the squirrel, like what people are experiencing, and is like, it's like sugar. It's like a high when somebody attractive thinks it's like the girl is entertaining you, and then you can have another one tomorrow if you want, or another one tomorrow. Like you can have endless options. And so I think that it's not so much that we need to head back into a place of pure monogamy, but it's like the attention you give to someone, the focus you can have in just the one moment is what develops connection.
Absolutely.
So it's like, but we're like this all the time. And we can't even it's in friendships, it's in relationships, in family, it's in everything. But it's like when I sit down with a human being, I'm right here because I want to be.
Because I
want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear the things, but that's true intimacy. And it can be 5 minutes, it can be 5 years. Like it doesn't matter the length. But I think what I've been noticing is that people are so starved of real connection that they are on the Candy Crush experience because it's like the next high to the next high. And so one of the things I've been experiencing in the last few months, because of how I've been stepping into my relationships, is that there's no feast or famine when you understand your power in the world. And it's not power over people, it's power over yourself. And what was fascinating when I put the stake in the coffin with the one person that I had the last grappling attachment to, is all men started to show up differently.
I love that. So tell me.
So when they didn't show up in a certain way, it wasn't offensive to me. It didn't hurt. If I needed to say something directly, like, you know what, that was actually rude. Or if somebody can't follow through on their plans and I'm like, well, your follow through is kind of shit. Like I have no problems calling out things because it doesn't mean anything about that person. It's just, this is not an attractive quality. I started to look at my baseline of normal, and I started to say, okay, if I want to experience something else, then something's got to give, because I'm having the same fucking experience and it's really annoying.
It's so fucking annoying.
And so what I did was I started to look at those qualities and I was like, that's not kind. Like, it's not sexy. It's not hot. It's you.
Yeah. And I don't want to have to teach you that either.
No, exactly. And so what happened was I call it like this. I think women don't understand that they are the selectors. What I've realized is that you will have more men on your plate in any specific, like you could have any man at any given moment. So you truly are the selectors. So what are you selecting? Because the guy that is not going to be there for you, is not going to help you grow and expand, is not going to be a partner that's going to be able to see you through your elements. Elements meaning weight gain, pregnancy, stress, postpartum, retirement. Like all of these phases require people in your world that you're going to have a good experience. Like, why in the God's name would we choose people that don't give us decent experiences? And that doesn't mean perfect experiences. So I want to preface that, because just as your human counterparts are also human, but there is a baseline that you're used to experiencing. So when I started to put that down and started to see where I was literally choosing something not even close to what I wanted, then the men that started showing up in my life were extraordinary. They were caring. They followed up. They provided. They didn't ask questions. They were attentive. They listened. They stayed in touch, even if it didn't work out. The level of love that I received, not just from men, but also from women in my world, because I had to change that story too.
Right.
What kind of relationships did I have with women?
Mm.
Again, really great when it was great,
The ones that
disappearing acts when it was in conflict, people talking shit behind my back, thinking like, yeah, I can feel all this stuff. It's the worst. And then I thought, wait, there's got to be a better quality of woman out there
absolutely.
that that can be honest with me and tell me what's up, but also support and love. But my usual experience wasn't that. So as I started to put the usual experience down, and it was radical in one situation and has been ongoing in a few others,
Yeah.
the consistency of quality of being, and quality doesn't mean good or bad. So I'm not saying that people who haven't decided what they want in their life are bad, but I just decided I want a different experience. But those people that keep coming in are incredible human beings. And so what I realized is I didn't have to rush anymore.
I love that.
I don't have to worry.
There's
I
nothing
know
to
that
rush towards. Yeah.
if a guy and I lose connection and there's something that I don't have to worry about missing out on something else, because there's always more. And so that whole idea, when I hear about people talking about the feminine leaning back and in their relaxation, it's not that you're not active in your life and doing the things that you want. Because what I realized is, me as a woman, I've always been like entrepreneurial, and I've always been able to articulate, and I do have a sense of power that's can be a bit much for people. But what I realized is I was waiting for those people to catch up.
Right. Totally. Absolutely. Oh,
And
let me hang back. No.
yeah, it wasn't that they were behind me. They were more than capable of meeting me there, but they weren't. And so instead of facing my reality of these people can't meet me there, and just being like, okay, well, that's cool, not the interaction I want to have,
Mm.
and walking away, you stay.
Yeah. And it's not, out of like, oh, well, I don't value you. Fuck off.
No, it's not that you're not doing this for
It's
me. It's I'm
actually like,
actually choosing what I want.
yeah, I'm like, you do you, boo. It's okay. You can be you. Um, and there have been experiences where I've walked away. I'm like, you're a fucking retard.
Yeah.
And I've been angry and stuff like that. So, and like, when you get past that and you process the stuff, because there's stuff there, if your response is like that, then you still have to go through that phase of coming to acceptance that you are choosing. And a lot of people don't like that stage. But
Yeah. Yeah.
totally.
And they don't want to be responsible for it. And like, to be
Responsible.
a truly powerful creator in your experience, you are responsible.
You are absolutely responsible, 100%.
You're responsible for all of it. No one's in your body. You're not being moved by another human being. No
Yeah,
one's
you
behind you
want
being like,
something different, you have
yeah,
to
you
own
have to
every
do it.
single part of your life,
Yeah.
including the stuff that fucked you up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what people are experiencing is very deep desperation, especially in I would say North America is very, like, being in Europe for the last few months and being in actually Mexico and South America, like they have a different idea of connection that actually is very holistic and very rich and very deep. And somehow North Americans think they've got it all figured out, which just cracks me up because they're so starved for so much that I'm like,
Yeah,
there's no context because they've never experienced another normal.
well-being. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
So
So, but you're finding these people who are even where you're at right now, what, New York?
New York, everywhere I've been, actually, men have popped into my world that have been extraordinary. And, some you have a little bit of romantic connection with. Sometimes it's just
Friendship.
purely platonic and just explorative in terms of like, who are you? And when we talk about we overcoming feeling exploited. So
Yeah.
we had this discussion on the weekend, and how like I had this perspective of men have primarily been conditioned to provide, to be the leaders, to be great at sex, to have money, to have a great body, to have all the things. And women have been sexually exploited. So we use our beauty, our
To get that as
sexual
provision.
embodiment, but that isn't really even embodied because it's used for something. And we do it to each other. And I think what happens in that is the experience of love becomes transactional, and it really comes down to knowing what you want in the moment. So there are some people who want very different things, and people love to say that that's not okay, it's not this, it's not that. It's like, I don't really care what other people want. What I care about is, can I be in integrity with my own experience and have an experience with somebody that I don't know or somebody that I do know, and continue to move in accordance with that, regardless of if it's a long-term relationship, short-term relationship, or whatever, without using or exerting force in any way. Force, control are how I show up. Does my voice change? Do I do
Yeah,
different, do I do
yeah.
stupid
Do
shit
I?
in front of
Yeah,
somebody? Do I perform when I'm having sex with someone
right, exactly.
so that
And
they
for
see
me,
me
like
as this? Yeah.
the way that I do this is like I really want to know who a person is. So for me, I call it foundations. I'm like, how do I explain it? It's it used to come from a place of like protection and anticipation because of like that's set standard that I used to have in my experience. But
Yeah.
through moving through repeated experiences that were painful, as you did, like, no, I don't want that anymore. Yes, I want this. That feels good. That didn't last, or that was fleeting, or whatever. But I have an idea more of what it is that I want through a process of experiencing what I no longer want. And what became really important to me, and also to some degree for some of my clients, was what foundation do I actually have? And if I don't know myself, I'm not going to know how to navigate myself around another person to see
Uh-huh.
if
Yeah.
I'm just seeing through a lens of what they're presenting, or
Yeah.
whether or not they can actually get authentic with me and there is something really interesting to pursue there. So,
Or can you accept the truth? So I think a lot of times the
yes,
narcissist empath thing is thrown around so heavily, but sometimes people are actually being truthful with you. And if
yeah,
you're in any sort of state that you can't just listen to that person and be like,
accept
yeah,
what they're saying.
okay, okay. Like, then there are deeper layers to
Absolutely.
relationship. So yeah, oh, sorry.
So foundations, that's really what it is. And it's like,
Yeah.
you have to be honest and like, in fact, in order to be an authentic person and to get to know yourself really well, you have to use brutal honesty on yourself and take that amount of self-responsibility.
Yeah.
You won't be able to like know people without that.
Yeah.
You cannot know people without that, not truly. If you're
Yeah.
living in a fantasy about yourself in denial, you will be in denial with other people around
Yeah.
you. And I think that's really what shifts it, because now you're not drawn to the same thing anymore. Other
Right.
people are willing to do the same. It's like you're role casting each other into these roles,
Yeah.
and you're attracting, yourself to other people who are doing that, who are more than willing to step into that role so that you can have that little exchange. But
Yeah.
you just no longer become attracted to that kind of dynamic anymore. It's so different.
Yeah.
So, and you're not
Yeah.
afraid, like you said, you know
The
yourself, you're not afraid to like say what's coming out of your mouth or like out of your
well,
head. And
and
just
I think it's like you're so used to operating a certain way that to change it, to do something different, um, is what makes it scary. But over time, the more
yeah,
you do that, it
yeah,
becomes normal. So
that's really
when
nice.
people talk about becoming something else, it does require you to
For a
make
little while,
decisions,
but you have to,
for a little while, and then it's fine. Yeah.
even if it's painful, you have to keep choosing that. It's the price you have to be willing to pay, the price you have to be willing to pay. You won't know what that means because you don't know it. But
Yeah.
once you do it all the time, making choices in alignment with you, that is the new self-regulation system. And then you can move into the unknown far more comfortably
Yeah.
than you can before. I was speaking to a woman today who was married for 19 years.
Wow.
And I blew up the marriage, but she wants to change, but she hasn't. She's always defaulted to old styles, and everybody has that experience. Like
Yeah.
everybody has experience. And she's like, I want all these things, but I'm so afraid to step into this. I'm 47 now, and this is the first time in my life that I have all these options available to me. In fact, I think I've forced myself into the situation through blowing stuff up, blowing them up.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of work that's going to have to be done there, but hey, that's what people do if they don't consciously choose to hold themselves accountable with radical truth and honesty. They're going to tell themselves stories about maintaining that
Status quo.
status quo.
But I find in relationships, what happens is that people work hard to try and get back to what something was 15 years ago,
Totally.
instead of facing reality and being like, well, this is shit.
Yeah, and being excited about how somebody else.
How do you create something else? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why relationships can reinvigorate, but
exactly,
people have to choose. It can't just be one person. And at least for women, what I notice is more women continue to choose when the counterpart is not really doing anything, and then it becomes this waiting game, and and then you're mothering, and you're like, it's this disgusting, but it's way, way, way more fun and more hot and more committed and more connective when you're not trying to hold this person in contempt of what it is that you want. And so then you can just be more actively in your relationship, which is what keeps it alive.
Yeah.
Being active in your relationship keeps it alive.
That right there is old. And people think that's boring because, oh, that looks like maintenance. No, hey, dude, if you're being an asshole today, guess what? You're being an asshole. But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean you're an asshole always. It just means that today, I don't really like, you're brutal. There's something about truth when you say it, it drops off when it's said. It does.
There's no hook. You know when people are speaking. Okay, so I do want to talk a bit about what's floating in the world today. There's so much information, and I know that everybody that's in the self-development space has gone down rabbit holes of all different dichotomies and theories and ideas. And what it always boils down to, and the thing that I see that is probably the most detrimental, is that people do not see their reality and act from their reality.
Yes.
They literally are trying to model and mirror the suggestions of gurus. And that is the one piece that I think is missing when you talk about being in power, is that, there's so many different ideas that then you start to fit yourself into. So, the most common thing that I see in like the feminine masculine community is that the feminine is supposed to show up a specific way.
Yes.
And those teachings are actually not wrong, but there's nothing that says you can be exactly who you are and still be feminine. And when you own who you are, then that femininity does radiate out, whether you're a tomboy or a Barbie or an entrepreneur, it doesn't really matter. It's really comes down to the self-ownership of that.
Yeah.
Totally. And addressing the experiences people have of you when they express those to you in the moment. The other thing that I've experienced actually from this place is that relationships I would have never thought would have transformed are radically changing. And not because we are in therapy together, not because we're hanging out, not because we've maintained a friendship or a contact in some time, but they are literally radically changing, and they're coming to me.
So tell me a recent example.
So my mother is my most recent example. Mom, if you're watching, this is personal, and
hey, Mom.
welcome to the life of Jen. So, we had a really challenging experience. I was very strong-willed at a young age, and I was pointing out things left, right, and center that I didn't want to participate in. And, you know, she, at that time in her life, she was 17. So think about having a child. Not like I could have all the empathy in the world, but the treatment for most of my life with her was not great. And she owns that. So she didn't always own that, but in recent months, she's been saying, okay, yeah, I can see now.
Right.
But it took
Mm,
most of my life, like I'm 41.
mm,
And so we're having these conversations now. And what's beautiful is that when I put what my idea of mother meant down, when I took the pressure off in terms of who she
mm,
needed to be for me, and I focused exclusively on who I am as a human being, and that I could be mad in the moment and still want to be in a relationship with someone,
mm.
um, our relationships are to evolve. And what's interesting is that, she was in my DM saying, how did you do it? I said, what do you mean?
How did she know you did it?
She can see it.
Right.
I'm an example of it. So I also want to speak to that a bit on the normalizing
Yeah,
things and trying to model certain behaviors is fake
totally.
and you can't hold it.
No, never.
Normalizing something is people standing in who they are regardless of what their external world is providing to them.
Yeah.
That's how you normalize something, because in your existence you give permission to other people to do the same. You give an
Totally.
example of a different normal that they have not yet experienced. And so normalizing is not about acting like you have your shit together or
Yeah,
acting like you
thinking
love
on
your
something
body when you
that's
hate your
normal.
body. Like it's so silly, those movements. But if more people just took a look at themselves like, oh, this is who I am, and I'm going to show that, even if people have something to say, even if
Mm,
I am too much sometimes, even if I'm crying because I'm feeling hurt, like I don't care.
mm.
So yeah,
I love
my mom coming in has been really cool to see, because she's actually in therapy and she's starting to look at her stuff, and she's able to acknowledge things that I was calling out to her in my early 20s.
that. Mm.
But she couldn't own it then because there was an avoidance there
Yeah,
of really looking at it. But now that she is, we can actually connect.
and have a conversation. It's great.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so it's so I want to talk a bit about staying power and what that actually means. So a lot of people think, you're in these relationships that maybe have ups and downs, they're maybe not consistent, they're maybe not what you want. And people have this idea of like, well, you got to stay and make it work. You got to stay and like
Yeah, I
figure
tried
it
that.
out. Yeah, everybody has, it's torment. Um, and so staying power to me is not how long do you stay in hell. It's literally how quickly can you stand in your own authority and ask for what you want and be prepared at any given second to walk away.
Yeah, so it's staying power about yourself, really.
So staying power is here. I'm staying true to my own experience, regardless of you. Yet, if I choose you in my world, then I will come to you with the things that I want. I'm not going to hide them from you or think that you're supposed to magically know what I'm thinking. That is one thing that's so infuriating to me that a lot of women do, is like, well, he should know.
Mm,
Why?
that is silly. I also think,
Why?
like, on that aspect though, you have to know another person's limitations and weaknesses, and obviously if you're with them, then you know those things. I mean, um, are they capable of growth? Yes. Are your expectations for change real? Yes. Are you mostly meeting your own needs? Yes. Cool.
And I actually had a friend say something to me the other day that was really, really kind of thought provoking. Maybe, just maybe, take a look at the person and you can see some long-term and demonstrated qualities that maybe you don't love. Maybe, just maybe, can you accept that they will not be able to be that for you? And I was like, son of a bitch. I'm like,
Boom.
yep, I
That's what.
can. And then you take it one step further. Okay, knowing that they can't do that. So if somebody is avoidant of you, doesn't show up for you, doesn't celebrate you, doesn't support you,
Yeah.
but maybe you have the best time ever. Well, then maybe you're looking at that version, you know what, I can accept that that person isn't going to do those things, but maybe it's okay that we just have fun. But also maybe that person doesn't need to be close to me anymore, but I can still love that person. Staying
Mm.
power is knowing your truth, deciding how the orientation of that exhibits in your external experience, and then knowing that, say that person returns 2 years later, to be open to every experience because you don't know who that person is anymore. And that is really how people transform, is you hold a constant version of somebody, then everything they do will always be painted with that
Yeah.
constant version.
Yeah, it's like you snap a picture of them and you hold that
Yeah, you just take it with you. Like they might be completely different, but you're just
I
carrying
can
that
speak to
picture.
that. I can speak
Yeah.
to that for sure, because well, saying that, like, one, when you have your needs met, does this other person show you the way they love you in their own way? And is what you're requiring absolutely, like, this, I don't know how to say it, like, is it a deal breaker?
Necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that thing the core focus, if it's actually coming from an unmet need that you're not willing to give yourself? One, and then the rest of what you say, I think is just fucking brilliant. But with snapping a picture of somebody and then resenting them forever because a relationship ended badly in the past, I'll use my ex-husband for an example. I got divorced in 2015 and I hated him, man. I really did.
Mm.
Because I felt betrayed and all other
Sure.
stuff. But I held this picture of him as somebody who is a control freak, who wanted to change me all the time and not let me figure out who I am, and whatever. I had this story in my head about it. And like 8 years later, we sat down at a table to actually, chat for the first time without our old dynamics interfering
Yeah.
in that conversation. It was really nice. It was more relaxed, more open-minded. We both acknowledged the growth and change, and that's really, really cool. So yeah, I totally advocate for that. But
Well, and I think that that's when we aren't meeting ourselves and so when there's resentment and anger, it's usually because we have dropped our own desire in each and every experience, that's compounded, and now that person is the reason why you're unhappy.
totally, and
I
neither of
don't
us.
live that way. I know that people are not my reason for being unhappy. Me being unhappy, me being angry, me being not satisfied is me consenting to experiences I really didn't want to participate in, or me not choosing something outside of my usual experience. It's really that simple, but it's so complicated because we think we have control.
Yeah, I was contending against like religious programming, and I was married at 21. I had no idea of who I was outside of school. I mean, I was out of school for a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool. And like around the time I had, or just after I had Matthew, and I had these identity like deaths or whatever, I'm like, who the fuck am I? Who the fuck am I? I have to go and find myself. It can't be in this relationship because there is no space to do that.
Yeah.
So not that I didn't have staying power and like try to figure it out within it, but it ended up being something that I felt was going to be great for both of us. And it ended up being really great for both of us.
Yeah, I
So
mean, that's the actual thing, is like, we like to take these relationships to heart so heavily, but every single thing you go through is perfect as it is. It doesn't always seem perfect, but in meaningful relationships, it's not that you stay in it to a self-detriment point where you're sacrificing yourself constantly, that you're staying in solidarity with where you want to be in the moment. And that changes, and the snapshot of that person changes. And that's actually how relationships continue to stay alive and thrive, is when you're truly in that integrity. And that can be challenging sometimes because we love comfort. Humans are designed to love comfort. And so if there's components of relationships that are really comfortable, and sometimes those are not great places either. Like if my comfortable is being okay with people leaving my life when they're upset with me,
no,
that's
that's
not
wonderful.
that's a no, right?
No,
But it was my normal. And
right.
when I started to see people who could just not do that, I was like, oh, there's a different type of relationship, but we approach it with such firmness that we can't even explore our own experience. Like, and it's become more childlike for me, where when
Mm,
somebody comes into my world, I'm like, okay, like, who are you and what are we doing here? And it's really fun to
that's awesome.
explore
It's
the
exciting.
dynamics. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's, hmm,
I think it's also like, oh, cool. I'm looking forward to something now. Oh God, I've got to go back to dating.
yeah. And
Or
you know,
whatever.
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't
So
know what.
in the dating world, what I've noticed specifically is that the same dialogue is happening everywhere. It's the same dialogue. And I'm thinking, okay, if people were talking more about what those normal relationships look like, and actually not normal, but just like really beautiful, and that
Yeah.
there's no lack. Like, if you say there's no good men out there, I hate that fucking sentence now
Yeah.
because it's not true. There's incredible men out there, and and again, some of them are my friends now, some of them I've had like some interactions with, but it's like there's incredible men out there and they're waiting to fucking love you, like, truly.
That's cool.
um there are really beautiful people out there, but you can't see them. You can't see them when you're entertaining bullshit.
I went on
So
one date last month and I was like, mm-mm.
no, you're hilarious. We gotta break that open.
No,
What
no,
was
it was just more of the same. So
Yeah.
yeah, totally gonna break that open. That's my new challenge. Dale says, thank you so much for this conversation. Amazing humans. I am beyond bleak that I can't stay till the end. That's okay.
That's
There will
okay.
be
You can
everything.
always watch it again. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that was coming through on this topic.
Let's see if we answered all these questions. If the dummy is an utility exchange, we covered that. How do we get out of that pool? Right. So
How do
how
we
do
get
we
out of the pool?
get out of that pool?
So how do we, so okay, so you talked a bit about carrying a snapshot of a person with you everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Stop doing that.
yeah, and you know, that's a much harder task
It's
than people give it credit for. It's not something you can just do it overnight. Like, there's varying degrees to everything. So people who can go all in with this stuff, they're not afraid. Like, they're just going to do it. Um, but sometimes it's a process to get to a place where you're like,
oh, I
okay,
knew that.
it's time.
I
So I think we have to acknowledge that just because all this information exists and there is truth to all of it, and there is falsities that lie in it, because what I've noticed more often than not is that you have these people sharing really great ideas and theories, but you're not intimate enough with them to know if they're actually living what it is that they're talking about.
uh,
And it's such a surface level experience that the only way to really have that experience for yourself is to find it here. Um, and you know, what I've seen in the community so far is just a bunch of people talking. They're just talking. They're not
mm,
walking. That was like the one thing for me where I'm like, yeah, you can't just talk about it. You can't just look intelligent. Um, if you've never had the relationship of your dreams, how the fuck are you talking about it? How do you fucking know? Drives me crazy. If you are a coach and you're talking about helping people make millions of dollars and you haven't had one client, come on. Come on.
is that happening?
It does.
Oh,
And
that's true.
so,
That's happening. That's
and
crazy.
and again, there's nothing wrong with speaking to your potential clients, but you got to like,
You got to walk your talk, man.
it's delusional. Like, you have to be able to be like, yeah, I've been there.
Mm, yeah,
There
totally.
is the energy behind somebody that walks what they talk about is completely different, but most people miss it because of the way people look, how they
Yeah,
articulate.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
Again,
so
earlier.
with
So,
getting out of the pool really requires you to look at things. So if you look at your life, you look at what's in it. And this is an exercise I did, actually. It was kind of funny. I was like, okay, what do I want in my world right now? I would love to have better relationships. I would love to have better sex. I would love to have, you know, money so I don't have to think about it anymore. I would love to be able to create different things to create deeper connections. And I looked at my landscape and I was like, okay, this isn't it. And again, I was like, well, life has been pretty good. It's been
mm,
pretty good. I'm not like it was pretty decent up to a point. until it wasn't decent anymore. And I was like, oh, I want to go ahead and move over here because that's what I'm being moved to do.
Yeah.
And that landscape
following
had
it.
to change. Yeah. And there were certain elements in me that came alive that were gone. There were certain elements in my physical world where I was like, I don't want this. And what's interesting is it just helped me get really clear about what it is that I do want. So
Mm.
it's like to get out of the pool requires that you don't sit in the pool with other people and their
Right.
ideas of the world. You
I
sit in the pool and you decide, okay, is this really what I want to partake in? Really?
What does mine look like? I think that's a big difference with all these, polarity, submission, dominance teachings, is that you have to try that bikini on,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it
Um,
becomes role. And so, and I'm also feel like I did this for a good amount of time too, when I
oh man,
didn't
who
really.
hasn't? I
Yeah.
mean,
And
let's
so
be
there's
honest,
no shame. Like you're they're here to
you are
explore
you're
all
in
of
a
those
journey
things.
searching for your way, and then eventually you're like, okay, that's not it. Let's
It's
do
not my
something
way.
different.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
totally.
And so to get out of the pool entirely really just is that self-ownership piece. And that's really what Pieces is all about. It's like I love watching certain coaches and I love reading certain things. And sometimes I'll throw on an affirmation tape. Like lots of people might think that's fucking stupid. Good. Think it's stupid. I don't care. But
Yeah.
I'm moved not by what people are teaching, but what I feel moved to do. And sometimes that stuff comes really natural.
Mm. It's like
I
an
tell the story. Yeah, you have to really come back to. There's so much. I was having this conversation yesterday actually with a guy, and he was so absorbed with social media. And I said, what if social media like just turned off tomorrow?
what then?
Oh, what would you have remaining?
Mm.
What if dating sites crashed and you could never access an app again? Oh, what would you have?
I would have to be a real person and really do it like
Yeah.
I'd have to create some skill.
Yeah. And my friend Ken actually said something to me the other day that because he's kind of like a visionary and he doesn't like he comes up with these ideas that are just like almost kooky, but then it's like makes perfect sense. But he made a prediction. He said, I feel like the world is so disconnected that we're going to be heading to a place where social media will really not be the driver anymore.
Yeah, I hope we get to that place
And
actually.
people will be looking for deeper connections, which
Yeah.
requires people to show up as they
Yeah,
are, not who they
yeah, and I
think they
think
are.
I think that's what's happening. And I think that like, if we get on that right now, as what
You're
we're
ahead of
really
the game.
calling to
Yeah.
is women who want to stand there and not be like the forerunners of it or whatever, but
Ah,
fuck man, right now is right now. And like, do you want to wait for that wave to hit? Who knows how long that's going to take? Why don't you just do it?
so
Like deciding to do
I
it.
do actually want to talk about how women can change the landscape of dating by just
Yeah, we didn't really hit
asking
on that
for,
one.
yeah. So like what I've noticed is, there's all these behavioral things on both sides of the spectrum. So it's not just men and it's not just
Of
women.
course.
So nobody is like isolated from
Like a
responsibility.
dynamic does not
Yeah.
exist without participation from both sides.
Exactly.
So,
So if we think of pacifying shitty behavior, and shitty
it's
behavior
fine.
is like if I want communication in my relationship, but I totally keep showing up for the guy that cannot communicate. So I'll tell you a story. There's this guy that's been pursuing me for probably a year. And he's always like, I'll fly you out. Can I come to you? Do you like, let's get married? I'm like, just all this
What
shit, right? Well, just
the fuck?
we've been friends for 8 years. Like it's been a long time, but he's
Okay.
pursuing me. And we're in New York. He's here, I'm here. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, well, do you want to meet up? He's like, absolutely. I'll be in New York. Let's set up a time. He said, I'll text you after, because he's a celebrity chef. So he's like, I'll text you after my thing. I'm like, cool. Doesn't
Mm,
text.
mm,
And I was like, good night.
fascinating.
And then we have another moment, a point of contact where he has to message to set up plans. Number two, doesn't do it. And then I'm thinking, man, so this is where women fuck up is it's like you start taking it personally. You're like, oh, well, am I not cute enough? Has he got like someone else on the go? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, this is shitty behavior. I'm like, this is so boring. And so third time around, he he tried to make plans but didn't follow up. And my next and last response to him was, your follow through is 2 out of 10.
How did
It's
he
true.
respond?
He didn't, of course.
Of course.
But the thing is it's like, what most people do is they pacify those behaviors. Oh, it's fine. Oh, that person can be
No,
who they is. Oh,
definitely
if
not.
or they get entitled with it. Well, if he's not going to show up, then I'm not going to do this. And then they have like this battle. No, it's really much simpler. As women in power, or that own yourself, and men that own yourself, you kind of have to increase the quality in your world, because you're not going to tolerate it.
No, yeah,
There's
I
no
love that.
tolerating, but you're not demeaning that person for being. So this guy, I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he could probably be really fun to hang out with. But is he
Sure.
someone I want to spend time with if he can't
No.
even make a plan? No, that's so ridiculous.
I
But
once said
women,
that.
yeah,
I once said that to a guy who's like, "Oh man, we need to meet up again and whatever. Let's do kettlebell workout together and whatever." And then like 3 weeks later, "Hey, sorry I didn't follow up, but let's do it." And then like the evade, like setting a date. So I said, "Listen, if you wanted to see me, you would have seen me by now." And he was like, "Oh shit, you're right." And then he showed up.
yeah. But
But
that's just it. It's like it's calling it out, not for
yeah,
the purpose of anything.
yes, not to get him,
And
whether he
and I
goes
was like, I was annoyed at this point. I'm
again.
like, dude, you were chasing me. Why am I? And then I was like, you know what? Why am I doing this? And that's when I thought, okay, 2 out of
And like
10 follow through.
also what I noticed with women is like, I need to know why they didn't follow through. I mean, like that
No,
they
you
keep
don't.
communication open. So like, you were chasing me. I don't understand what happened. I need clarity. I need to inbox them. And that hook right there keeps them in that loop for fucking ever.
Ever.
You don't need
Well, I
clarity.
mean, people's actions, there might be some things that are about you, but self-ownership is really, so if someone doesn't like me for a specific reason, and they've communicated that to me, and there's an accountability or whatever,
Yeah.
and they choose to continue to not like me, I can make that mean something about me, or
Yeah.
I can accept that, hey, maybe this is not the best relationship, and I can move on knowing that I'm always in the process of creating, because it's
Mm,
fun. So
yeah.
if somebody doesn't like me, that's okay.
That's fine.
And
Totally
so
fine.
you stop perceiving rejection entirely. That's kind of how I started to look at it, was you
Yeah.
start looking at people not showing up, but it's not anything about you. And so the analysis ends because people stop talking to you for a magnitude of reasons. And
You
like
can't
what
possibly know, try to figure it
what
out. And you know
cracks
what?
me
It's not
up,
going to change
it
anyway. It's not
doesn't.
going to feel.
Well, and the thing is, like, you watch all these dating coaches and they have all these reasons for why people do things, and everybody's a fucking individual. So,
Yeah.
people say, well, if they want to text you, they would. I don't like texting. I don't like texting. I'd
Yeah.
rather have a call. I'd rather have a FaceTime. I'd rather go and hang out with you.
Hey,
Texting
Jocelyn.
every day to me sounds like the worst thing on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
But and texting is not a demonstration of love.
No, it's not. It's like, if that's a demand of yours, then it's a show for like how much you need validation or
Well,
whatever.
and what happens when things change? I think that that's the one thing people, when you're active in a relationship, things move
Yeah,
because you're
life happens.
constantly moving. You as a human being, and a whatever's driving the human being is always moving. So it's like, I think we have to drop the notion that partnership is forever. And it's like, partnership is partnership for as long as I choose the partnership. And
Totally.
so many
On both
people check
sides.
out of their relationship long before that relationship's over. They're not choosing their
Mm,
relationship, they're expecting their relationship to fill a hole.
absolutely, 100%. You just nailed it right there. I love that.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so
Okay.
getting out of the pool is just being present in your experience and actually owning yourself, your communication, and how you orient yourself to the shit in the world. So I used to look at information and be like, I'm not like that. Does that mean I'm not going to find a husband? And why do I need to find a goddamn husband? Like, who said? Who said?
Yeah, who said? Okay, so
Okay.
let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
We have an announcement actually.
Yeah.
Fuck, how long have we been on here for? Like almost 90
Hour and a
minutes.
half.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you said 90
Um,
minutes on the thing.
yes,
You said
90 minutes. So,
on the
we have
dot.
on the dot.
On the dot.
Happens. So we have we're opening pieces of close Facebook group open to the public now.
Woo! Yeah.
I will drop the link in the description as well as in the comments for us so that if you guys want to join us there, and who knows what fucking shenanigans we're going to get up to there. I mean, Jen and I will probably cook up something cool. Who
Well,
knows?
I mean, I think what's coming through for me is I'm having such like weird downloads randomly through the day. I could really
Oh,
just see myself going live in those moments and just being like,
right.
listen up, like here's what's dropping. So I like the little
Mm.
hot potatoes coming in would be kind of
Okay,
fun.
cool. Hot
Yeah.
potato drops.
Hot
Here we go.
potatoes. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you want to join us, I'll look out for the link right here. Actually, let me grab it while I'm on here and drop it
Perfect.
right
I mean, I feel like that's the best
now.
way. Yeah. Right now.
I forgot that I could do that.
Yeah. I know. Because they're different
Not great.
platforms. That's funny.
Yeah. Pieces. Let's go into my pieces. Let's grab the fucking Facebook link right here. I have so many notes on my like MacBook. It's not funny. So link Facebook group. Here it is. Copy. Roger. Oh, shit. Copy that. Control C. And here it is, dropping in the comments.
Perfect.
Bring your friends, like invite your friends who you know are having a difficult time with relationships, or they know that they want to move into something more magnificent.
Yeah.
Who is this group for, Jen? It's really for women who want to experience intimacy real time with us, with each other. I think that's one of the best parts, but also how to learn fucking radical truth and seeing, it's like it's going to be like an experiment, like seeing what happens when you do things almost to the point of feeling like a dare. That's how radical it's going to get.
Yeah. It is really for people kind of in that place where they're like, oh, okay, I'm looking around here, and you know, people like to pretend they have the reality of their dreams, but they look around and they're like, fuck, it's not anything. And so it's for people that are ready to move towards it.
And you know what? I'm going to say, it doesn't matter if you're in a relationship. It doesn't matter if you're not in a relationship. It doesn't matter if you're newly broken up from one. If you're in a relationship, you know, that doesn't mean anything. It's complete dedication and willingness to yourself. And like Jennifer said, you never know when you change, things change. And really, if we're keeping to the theme of this specific episode, it's really about women taking ownership of who they are and seeing how they can affect relationships, not from a place of like deep pain, although you may be feeling it, but really out of curiosity for wanting to know what happens when you do shift and you choose yourself and you choose to go first.
Yeah.
And do you have the staying power? Do you want to create the staying power to clean up every single relationship in your life so that you can have the kind of phenomenal relationships you really want to have come into your experience? So that's really what it's going to be about. And who knows?
And I think the irony of radical choices in that regard is like most of the people I talk to want that. Like the men, and again, this is not gender specific, it's all people, but the men that I've experienced where I am fully in my body, experiencing myself and being able to share that, it's almost like there's an adoration and deep respect.
I love that.
Because they're like, whoa, like, okay, I know you're not like angry, but also, whoa.
Yeah, it's a different experience. I love that.
It's a cleaner experience, but
yeah, you know what? Like I don't have a problem with my range of emotions anymore. And sometimes I do scare people with my strong words, but for me, it's not necessarily out of a triggered point of view. It's just an expression.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, people who don't understand themselves will often misperceive. So
yeah, and you know what, like I really got tired of modulating myself for other people's comfort. And even if I had to stand up to somebody that I really admired in the moment because they asked me to modulate myself, and this has happened just like yesterday, or somebody else because they were the expert of a page and they were enabling someone else, and I had my say. And then I'm like, well, you can't actually say that here. You got to be like sensitive and whatever. That's not going to happen in this group. I mean, full permission to
to be
play
straight
with
up.
your range. Yeah, really. So Jocelyn says, God, yes, that's right. There's goal. And she says, this partnership is so beautiful. Cannot wait for this group. Well, the link is there. So I hope
The
you're
link
in
is
there.
live. Come join us.
All right.
Perfect.
What else
All right.
do you need to say? Is that
I
it?
really do think that's it. I
Feels
think
good.
that this is, for me, this is something very prominent in my experience right now. And power is not an exertion. It's literally self-generating. That to me has been the biggest shift, is I no longer need to assert myself. I just get to be myself. But that means I express things and I'm not afraid of the outcome. Because at the end of the day, if you want people to choose you, you have to choose them. You have to choose yourself, but you also have to choose them. So it's like we have this thing that like people have to come to you. No, that's not the case. If you want people in your life, you choose them too.
Just yourself. That's part of yourself. And you just gave me goosebumps. You know what that's called in psychology? It's called outcome independent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I've noticed about true power is it's not a loud experience. I don't have to prance around in a fucking flowy dress and, always be dressed up to the nines. Like I really just want to be me.
I can be a cap today. Oh,
yeah. Exactly.
That's
okay.
cool.
Well,
Right.
we'll see y'all in the Facebook group, and
invite your friends, share. Please do.
Yes.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Bye, Jen. See you later.
Bye.